I do. Time. It's 4:30. Let's go.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. We're back.
I want to offer a trigger warning to this episode in particular because we're going to be talking about some really raw material. We're going to talk about police brutality, and today was the first day of George Floyd's murder trial, right? So I wanted to bring that up. So if any of you are particularly traumatized by this information, if you're a BIPOC, please take your leave.
Maybe. Honestly, I think it's more white people that might need to take their leave, but that's up to you because I think you are the exact audience that should be hearing this. But it's not just about police brutality. I've known good police. It's about policing for me. Policing as a thing within the American historical narrative. Yeah. Let's go, Lise.
Let's go. All right, let's go. Hi, everybody. So welcome to the Bailey View. Today, like we said, today was, what's today's date? March 29th, 2021. And it was a historic day. I did listen to the opening arguments on the prosecution. Keith Ellison in Minnesota, the Minnesota state attorney, laid out a very compelling case and actually showed the video, which was, I was listening, so I didn't see the video, but he showed the video. A lot of the jurors had not seen the video. And then the defense came up and basically broke it down and scared the bejeebers out of me because I'm pretty convinced he's going to be acquitted, even though he's a stone cold murderer.
I don't know what the verdict's going to be. My whole life has been spent around legal affairs and looking at cases, trying to know how we've made advancements over the long course of American history, and whether it's remembering the Triangle Fire,
because the Triangle Waist Fire.
You know, that anniversary just happened, I think, or whether it's the Stono riot, or we've been making progress. It's just too damn slow. You feel me? And the ideas around policing. If you lined up a historical narrative between Old English law and the realities of life in England, and then the realities that we then recreated or attempted to recreate, but took further here in the United States, you'd see that we are the people that warehouse more lives than any country the world's ever known, and that my home city, New York City, is an occupied city to me with a military force, because when they want to bring out like the heavy equipment, the police force of New York City will break it out. And I'm someone that lived a life not so much in fear of the police, but I never trusted them, didn't want to dialogue with them, didn't have any faith that the police department of the city of New York, or any place I've traveled in these 48 states that I've been to, 47, in any of the 47 states, that what was of concern to me, my rights, my dignity, my ability to move freely within the American society was going to be respected, honored, and even maintained. My safety would be maintained. I never felt that way, not one day in my life. So here it is. Let's talk.
And I just want to juxtaposition that, right, by people who look like me. And I just recently, a man who had been a police officer kind of hovered while this other strange guy with the dog was kind of hovering and messing with me. I am somebody who has been taught by experience, by other people, by the systems of white supremacy that has said the police are here to protect and serve you. And that's the difference. They, on the side of the car, to protect and serve. It's not everybody. It's not everybody. And so I am representing today. You can't see because and that's why we're here in Gordon's office. We got the Black Lives Matter banner behind us. We've got, you want to show?
Sure. We've got the issue of the day in front of us, right?
Yeah. And I'm wearing the Kaepernick jersey behind me, right? So it says 49ers. We're actually calling Kaepernick. And those of you that understand, Kaepernick was vilified by the NFL for protesting peacefully this exact issue. And he was kicked out, blackballed, and now there's, and then of course the Black Lives Matter protest last year when George Floyd was murdered, and the whole world was watching. And so people erupted in all these protests, and there were complaints. Well, the protests weren't peaceful. By the way, 95% of them were. I think it was more like 97% of them were. And the ones that were not peaceful were not necessarily the Black Lives Matter protesters, but the right coming in to try and rabble-rouse and get people upset, okay? There might have been the very tiny percentage but that's not even the point, right? The point is not whether it was, but you can't, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's all I'm saying.
Look, you see, what's happened over the last 12, 24, 36 months, when did Black Lives Matter come into being? After Trayvon
After
Martin?
Trayvon, 2014.
So we could go back to that point. That's a mark of demarcation. Something different started on the landscape. But the policing practices that said that any white person could essentially corral, hold, dictate what a person of color, in particular an African or a black person in America, could do, say, where they could be, who they could be with, right? I was looking at some documents earlier today. Great book. I suggest you get it. But I was scrolling through here today and just looking at the different articles written and trying to understand and grasp how difficult it was to even be a free black person, because in the state of Virginia, of those initial Africans brought to this country, several of them became free, land-holding, very productive citizens in that Virginia colony, right? But even that their children and their children's children, born free, you were never free. You've never been free being a black person in these United States. And don't tell me go back to Africa, because somebody that looked like my lovely wife brought our asses over here. And let's be real about it. This is on you. So we need to fix this, and it needs to be fixed. Here's the sign language. Now, get it right. This is not okay. And the fact that we've always had to tell our children, particularly our sons, to be careful how they move through the society, to be careful about how they speak or interact with law enforcement. When you're driving and you get stopped, put your hands up. Don't reach for your wallet. Ask permission. I've been with white guys in the car and they argue back with the cops. Had I ever done that, I surmise I might not have lived to be gray, you know.
Many don't. I mean, the life expectancy of a black male is so much less than a white male, and those are right. These are the things that we want to talk about. The other thing that I just want to mention as we go into this very deep subject that is not fun to talk about at all, but it's necessary. One of the things that you said, I lost my. Dang it! I hate when I do that. I lost my train of thought. I'll bring it back. It's all right. Keep going.
You know,
keep going, baby.
So as we try to look at, well, how did this come about, and when was there a moment in time where the judicial system, the law enforcement agencies, the FBI, the CIA, everybody involved with quote unquote managing criminality or justice proceedings within the country got together and said, we know there's been a historical precedence of discrimination against these people. We are going to eradicate that. We are going to change policies, practices, and procedures so that we put an end to the injustice. But it's never really happened.
I remembered what I was going to say.
Good.
So on that topic, and we can't say it enough. For those of you that look like me, if you're really wondering why we're speaking so vehemently about this, or why we continue to beat this drum, why the Black Lives Matter folks are still out there, why we have a banner behind us. One of the reasons is, if you look at the most recent two mass shootings, right? Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado, and in Atlanta. Well, one was, I think, Middle Eastern, but light-skinned Middle Eastern young man, right? 21 years old. In Atlanta, it was a white 21-year-old. And rather than criminalizing the criminal, they start talking about the sex workers that he murdered, as if they were, so he had a bad day. How about those fucking, sex workers who had a bad day? How about the people that were working in the massage parlors and their entire families are now having a bad life? So that's what I want to talk about. When Dylan Roof walked in and killed 9 people that he'd been praying with in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's Charlotte. That was in Charlotte. It was in Charlotte. No, baby. Yes, it was. Dylan Roof was Charlotte, babe.
It's Charleston, South Carolina.
Was it Charleston?
It's Charleston. It's in the historic black church. Oh, he went there with a distinct purpose to rain terror on what had been the center of black life in Charleston. Don't get it wrong or fuzzy. I'm a pastor. Okay. I know this one.
But he walked in there. They end up arresting him, take him through the damn drive-through of Burger King because he was hungry. And yet, the murdered man on trial, they put the murdered man on trial today. And I understand how, these trials work. That's what they try and do, right? A woman claims rape. They take it to trial. The woman ends up getting put on trial. That happens over and over and over again. But I'm here to tell you, it is wonky and it is completely racially motivated. And that's what's messed up about it. And the disparities between what we tell our white children, right? We teach our white children, look for the helpers, right? I think this is a beautiful sentiment from Mr. Rogers. He says, look for the helpers. Whenever there's a disaster, a large event, look around for the helpers. And so when you're a white child, the first thing that comes into your mind is a policeman or a policewoman, right? A police presence are the quote helpers. The fire people are your helpers. The EMS people are your helpers. They didn't help George Floyd. They didn't give him mouth to mouth. He didn't have a pulse. They continued. So these are the things that we need to start to educate each other and our children about, because that's not okay. And black children have to learn about this stuff very early on. And white children tend to be protected. And it's not protection, because all it's doing is fueling white supremacy. That's all it's doing. It's fueling this and us and them. It's fueling an inequity instead of understanding the disparity between the two. That's all. That's what I want to say.
I have had friends across the human spectrum, right? My life isn't about a color spectrum, but it is about seeking right relations and justice for all. That's been my clarion call for as long as I can remember. I initially worked with young people, moved from there into working with those in lockup situations or in group home settings, moved from there, still young people, into working with adults within ministerial settings or counseling settings. I want people to not only survive. My greatest wish is that all people would thrive. But in this country, it hasn't been anywhere near to an equal situation in order to get to the thriving. Certain groups in this country, based on the laws, the policies, and the practices of our system of governance, has held people back.
Well, one group excels and the other is held down.
The reality is that poor white people have suffered as a small percentage of white Americans have really succeeded and are the super rich or live uber privileged lives. This notion of a rainbow coalition where black, brown, yellow, red, and white, all, did I say red, working together. We've had little fits starting to get people in solidarity together, and then the system has a way of pushing back and essentially saying to white people or fair-skinned Latinos or fair-skinned Asians that you somehow can climb the ladder with less roadblocks, but we're going to keep our foot on the back of those brown and black ones and Native people. Of course, the whole continent's theirs. I mean, like, come on.
Well, and this was a literal knee, right, on the neck, right? We talk about the figurative foot on the neck or on the back. This was a literal knee that actually caused the death. But the other thing I wanted to say just about that is when we talk about not just the police, but the CIA, the governmental organizations, right? Nixon's organization, when his Justice Department, when he was president, actually has come out recently and acknowledged the murder of Fred Hampton. So that's actually been completely there's a paper trail that proves that he was murdered. He was set up and he was actually murdered. And the COINTELPRO, which was the CIA coming and dumping drugs onto the streets of black and brown neighborhoods, very much on purpose, knowing what it was going to do, hoping that it would do exactly what it did, which was marginalize people even more because people got addicted and there were all sorts of issues crime went up because, there were all sorts of things that happened with the drug pushing that happened, but it was the white CIA, or maybe, I don't know, it was CIA. And I'm not even going to put a racial face to it. Because they had people working undercover that were also black and brown, that were working inside, that were dropping those in. So these are governmental agencies, and people wonder why, people are, well, what you can't possibly think it's all a conspiracy theory. Well, actually, it was a conspiracy theory. It actually exists, and that is why we have some of the problems we have today. There's some social issues that continue today that began because of deep racism. And Georgia and other people right now, there are 250 laws that are getting introduced in 43 states that are voter suppression laws. And those disproportionately affect brown and black voters, not the white voters.
I'm gonna take you back to my youth. So I'm running around the streets of Harlem, Washington Heights, Manhattan. Manhattan's my playground. The South Bronx is right there. African Bambaataa and the crew in the boogie down Bronx. We're getting down and we're living our lives as young guys. 1 or 2 days a year, the drugstore was closed. What's the drugstore? The entirety of uptown Manhattan and the Bronx is a 24-hour drugstore. White boys, white girls, rich people from Connecticut, from Long Island, from New Jersey, constantly running through black space, Latino space, looking to cop their products. We know in this nation, where black people only 12 to maybe 15% at best, and Latinos being 15 to 18, 20% at best. We know that the primary drug users in the United States are white people, but the open drugstore was in black and brown communities. And why was it open? Because the police of those communities, in collusion with whether it's the Fed selling heroin or whatever, cocaine, or if it's the CIA funding there,
mafia,
or if it's the mafia, or in the West Coast, whether it was the gangs. They're flooding communities of color with narcotics with the sole purpose of making money, because money is what makes America go round. Follow the money trail on every subject. And number two, the destruction. The destruction of black and brown lives.
And families. The destruction of the families, right? Because families are what hold communities together, and these communities were being pulled apart. And I want to talk a little bit about, you were just talking about the drugstore being open. I'm going to put on my glasses because I want to read this correctly.
Talk about the gun store too.
Well, that, you know what, that's a whole other, that's something we have to talk about.
No gun shops in Harlem, but there's plenty of guns, huh?
We need to talk about that. I think we're going to make another Bailey View specifically about guns and gun control and what you can do about it. So here, and we're going to give you guys some solutions in a minute here. But here's the other thing, the scale of disparity, right? The state with the highest black-white differential in incarceration, right? New Jersey is right up at the top. It is 94 whites to 1,140 black incarcerated. Do you know how many people in New Jersey are actually black? I think, hold on, sorry, I'm looking at something else.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that.
New Jersey's the state where driving while black was coined
invented,
because black people from the north couldn't get south to see their family without passing through New Jersey, and there was such a fear factor crossing Jersey. Jersey is the south. Let's keep it real.
So New Jersey, it's 12.2% is black, and yet 1,140, it's 94 white to 1,140 are incarcerated. So if you think about that, that's a huge, amazing disparity. And the thing about Minnesota too, Minnesota, the state imprisonment, this is where George Floyd lived and died. Minnesota has 10,000, this was in 2014, so I'm sure these are a little outdated, but it's going to be the same percentages. In 2014, 10,637 people in prison, 34.1% of that are black people. But do you know what the black population actually is in Minnesota? It isn't 34%. It isn't 50-50, right? It is 5.5% black. And yet the prison system has 34.1% of black. Maryland is the highest. Forget that. Baltimore. We all know about Baltimore. That has 72% of the men and women. I think this is just black men. I think this might be men and women in prison, state prison. This isn't feds. In Maryland, 20,733 inmates. Out of that, 72% are black. Maryland has a 29.2% black population.
Baltimore County, and I love the city of Bmore. Did my residency at Johns Hopkins. Shout out, right, to Fells Point and the good crab cakes and gumbo and things I could get there in Bmore. But Baltimore is a city going mad. We saw what happened with that police force there. Put that young man in the back of that paddy wagon.
Gray.
Look, and look.
Say his
name. You see, the thing that I've been able to look at over the course of my lifetime, these 59 years, is how cities go from being predominantly white to being predominantly black. How cities go from having all white elected officials to having mostly Baltimore black elected officials. But so often in these cities, because I know New York, I believe New York City is mostly Latino or Latinx at this point, with a large black population, but the police force is still predominantly white. And as you had white flight from the cities, the great cities of the United States, they changed the laws to support white people in that once upon a time, to be a municipal worker, to be a policeman, a police person within the city, you had to reside within the city.
That's right.
So now you're hiring people that don't live in proximity to the people that they're protecting and serving. They don't know us, they don't understand us, they don't like us, and they hurt us. They use and abuse us. And I'm going to tell you, 9/11 showed something striking to me. At the funerals of the police and the firemen in the city of New York, there were two sets of families at many of those funerals. The white family from suburbia and their black or Latinx family from Nueva York. Because those people were playing it both ways. You understand me? There are social, psychological, theological, because I am a pastor, and justice is what God demands of us, or the goddess demands of us. We've got to fix this, folks. It's 2021, and we can't continue to live the way we've been living.
No. So first of all, I just wanted to point out, see why we're standing today? I knew, I'm like, this is too much of an issue. I didn't want us sitting because there's all this energy, right? There's a lot of energy, needed the extra space. So that's, but I do want to talk a little bit about what you can do. And I really hope that those white folks or folks of European ancestry are listening with an ear like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, right? Maybe you did. I'm not going to assume you didn't know, but please, if you didn't know, or if you think you still know, I'm telling you, we're wrong. White folks are wrong about this issue right now, and there's a lot to back it up. And we can talk about that later. But what I want to talk about now are some of the solutions, right? So for folks that look like me, there is, and we've mentioned this before, there's a Showing Up for Racial Justice group called it's called Showing Up for Racial Justice, SURJ. And it is an anti-racist white national organization. And they have chapters all over the country. There's actually one in Las Vegas, which I think I'm going to be getting very involved with, and may even be co-leading it shortly. And then but they're all over the place. There are dialogues for people. Aware LA has dialogues online right now. If you are anywhere in the country and want to pop into one of these dialogues, they really get it right. So Black Lives Matter is LA is their accountability group. And it's beautiful. So Surge should have an accountability group, and then somewhere that you're also taking actions with, right? And then the other thing is the ACLU. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let Gordon say that. But the ACLU has an app, and it is on your phone. And if you see, as white folks, what we can also do is we can witness, okay? Because if I pull over, and I've done this a couple of times, I see somebody handcuffed or being arrested, or I see an incident happening and it's a person of color, I try and either slow down, or if I can, I pull over and I roll down the window and I make myself known. Obviously, I don't put myself in the line of fire, that, try not to get myself hurt. But you know what? Because I am somebody who looks like me, I'm not afraid of that, right? That's called privilege. I'm not afraid. So I stop, and I maybe I witness, maybe I have my camera video on. So they have a thing called, the ACLU has an app that you can download on your phone, and if something starts to happen to you or to somebody else, you press the button, it immediately starts recording, and what it does is it will upload automatically that video. So if you get arrested and your phone gets confiscated or something like that, like I wish Sandra Bland had that on her phone, right? I wish we could have seen what was going on there, because she had some of that on, and then they took her phone and we couldn't see anything else. So one of the things that would have been really helpful in some of these incidences is if we had the other side of it too. So that's one thing.
So this is one of the most difficult topics that we will ever grapple with in the United States, because somehow you get caught up in patriotism, and there's a linkage between policing, the military, apple pie, and the corporations of America. Like yeah, let's wave the flag. I'm not against anyone loving their country, and I'm not against law and order, because I don't want a lawless society. I want my children and my children's children and their friends, and I want the women that I love. I want everyone to be safe. At the end of the day, that matters most, that everybody is safe. But when we've got a legacy of behaviors that have been less than equal, less than just, less than fair, in fact, I dare call it evil, then we've got to do something. One organization that I know that does good work is Communities United for Police Reform.
That's right.
That's a structure people should get involved with. People should get involved with holding law enforcement accountable, and your municipality or your county governance should not have a system that allows the police to police the police. Right?
That's right.
You need citizens with a review board, with rabbis, with doctors, with teachers, with regular citizens there reviewing the literature and the information about what took place. We cannot allow the inmates to run the prison, and I'm going to flip the script. We cannot allow law enforcement to police themselves. They've had 200 years. And in the 200 years, as a nation, 200 and what years, as a nation, equality and justice, service to the community, everyone in the community has not been the norm. So,
and speaking of community, lobby, you can actually get an appointment with your local representative, your state senator, your city council. You can go speak to these folks. Right now, I think it's all on Zoom, but I had a meeting with my state senator and my state assembly person just this last week with the Repro Lobby Day with Planned Parenthood, and it was great. And I got to speak to them about bills that are happening. It should be transparent, and your state legislature should have some transparency. And you can email them, you can contact their assistants and lobby and tell them what you're interested in. And there's also an ask for policies to be written into the city constitution, the state constitution, things that are anti-racist in nature.
What did Seattle use?
Seattle used a racial equity toolbox in their city council, and everything that went through, all the projects, any hiring that they did, any new policies, they would put it in through the racial equity toolbox, and that's what they filtered everything through.
All right, now I don't know that Seattle is the bastion of everything good, but just the fact that they would dare to put a racial
equity toolbox.
Racial equity toolbox. So policing is important. It should be something that we all
responsible policing
are part of. Wouldn't it be nice if we all lived in a neighborhood where you can send your children, no matter what they look like, to the men and women that serve and know that they were in good hands. So I want to wish you all the best of this holy season. Ramadan's coming up, Passover, Easter. This is a holy season for some of us, and for our pagan friends, holy season.
Astara just happened.
So this is a wonderful time of the year. I just wish you all safety and good things, good tidings to everybody.
And I have one last thing to say. This isn't about the police officers that are truly wanting to do good work. Okay, we're simply speaking about the monsters like who killed George Floyd.
I'm more interested in transformation going forward. Yeah. What's done is done.
Right.
And I hope justice will be served, but I know what that history looks like. So do you, right?
So do you.
But let's make the tomorrow better for everybody. Bye now.
There you go. Mwah. Bye, y'all.